Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mini Storage Messenger webinar series. I'm Keith Rawson, Social Media Manager of Minico Publishing, and we're delighted to have you in the audience today. This is one of several informative webinars planned for self-storage owners, operators, managers, investors, developers, and other industry professionals. The sponsor of today's webinar is Call Potential and is presented by Ken Crown. Ken Crown is the Business Development Manager for Nextdoor Storage's Call Potential program. After 13 years in telephone and call center-based operations and sales, Ken has implemented tactics for Fortune 100 companies in the areas of sales, lead management, and collections. His service in Operation Desert Storm was the linchpin that created the use of formal system and process in his civilian career. Ken now assists Call Potential client base in imparting these practices to increase profits. This year marks the 32nd anniversary of the Mini Storage Messenger, providing the self-storage industry with in-depth news and information. Each issue of Messenger offers cover stories and feature articles of the most timely industry topics and trends. Monthly columns contributed by industry experts and accomplished business professionals address a wide range of topics including security, facility operations, technology, legal issues, legislative updates, construction and development. We also publish a variety of other self-storage data sources like the ones you see listed. For more information, please visit ministoragemessenger.com. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We invite you to submit questions throughout the webinar. Simply type your question into the chat area and click send. Depending on the question, we will answer it privately or to the whole group. We will try to answer as many questions as we can during the question and answer period at the end of the webinar. Those that we can't answer due to time will be answered via email after the webinar. The webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing on demand from our archives at ministoragemessenger.com. Today's presentation should run about 45 minutes, with the remainder of the hour open to questions and answers. And now I would like to turn the presentation over to Ken. Ken, how are you this morning, sir?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Thanks very much. I appreciate the opportunity to meet Keith and to talk with you. Let's go ahead and jump right in. We're going to be talking about three key areas of business profitability. Number one, the most important thing, selling. Number two, marketing and getting people in the door. And then third, coaching your people to see that they are performing and accelerating their performance on a regular basis. We're going to focus on three key areas in which we're going to be able to deliver the information. We're going to focus on getting more rental revenues or a higher conversion percentage. We're going to also look at a way to decrease what's probably the number 3 or number 4 expense to the business, your marketing, your advertising costs. And then lastly, to make sure that your team and your site managers are coming along for the ride. Here at Nextdoor Storage's Call Potential, we actually conducted a public survey out that was going to be 17 questions that we're going to cover various topics about rental and sales techniques, how do we coach our employees, and how do we really get a true ROI on our advertising and marketing. It's a number that really is eluding us more or less. And we also did some private research then based on some folks who responded with us. We collected over 2,000 data points that revealed the reality of what's really going on in real-world condition. So first, just a little bit about our audience. 82% of people completed all 17 of our questions, and this survey actually went out to 2,000 different recipients. Depending on the business, the average size of our respondent was right at about 14 locations. Just so you know, we did have 3 respondents who had more than 75 locations, but they were really sort of the outliers on the data. They skew the data, and so we did not use those. And just to give you a breakdown of what the various roles were of people who responded, About half of them were owners, but we had the operations and some district managers along with site managers coming in to fill in the blanks as well. So first, when we talk about just the high level concept here, we're offering a product and a service to a marketplace, and there actually is a myth out there that we want to dispel and kind of get you in the right sort of perception that the ways we see things. And that is, if you've ever heard the expression, if you build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door. Um, if Ralph Waldo Emerson was a storage owner in today's marketplace, he would be lousy at it. The reason being is that you can have all the greatest features, the best security, climate control, but if you're not able to have a system to let people know that you're there, you'll only get average results. You know, and in fact, when we talk about mousetraps, indulge me here for a minute. I'd like you to meet the Rent-A-Kill Radar 2000. The Rent-A-Kill Radar 2000 retails for $214. It has a laser sensor that opens a door to let a mouse come onto a pressure-sensitive pad. From there, the door automatically shuts and it actually emits a puff of carbon dioxide to gently euthanize the rat, and then it also notifies you via text message that the rat has been trapped. In spite of that, it's a pretty darn good mousetrap. Our point here is that still the most profitable mousetrap of all time is the good old Victor spring-levered trap. The reason I say this is because the folks at Victor actually had a process where they would tell people in a magazine ad to look for a letter. And when the letter arrived in the mail, it said to expect a phone call. And by getting people engaged and interested with regular communications, this is one of about 4 systems that they used to generate such huge sales. So they had a great team. The point is that they could plug anybody into that system and guarantee results. In fact, one last example, if you'll indulge me, is that there's systems that'll make an average product, but because they do so well at everything else logistically, they're able to show you that something as innocuous as a pizza can taste like cardboard, and still Domino's has $1.6 billion in net revenue from delivering an average product, not the better mousetrap. So systems work. The important thing to remember about any time you're going to create a system is that you can track it and you can measure it and you can quantify it. So when we talk about systems to get higher rentals, let's go ahead and jump in. Our first stop in getting higher rental conversion is to remember that we're generally looking at about a 30% conversion rate, meaning if 100 people call, 30 wind up renting. But really, what about the other 70% that called you? We really should focus there before investing in more marketing or maybe lowering our prices, because the fact of the matter is that people don't actually browse for self-storage like you and I might browse for a pair of shoes at the mall. People are predisposed to buy something from you. And so when you take that assumption and understand the value there, the most important thing is to realize that the first 10 seconds of a conversation are going to set the tone for that entire interaction. So let's go ahead and start with the selling process. In the very first moment when that phone rings, first, we asked our industry a little bit about scripts from the moment they say hello, and we asked about expectations around the scripts, and here we see that most folks have something in the way of a script or a guide. That's the expectation, and you expect scripts to help out with leads, and if you don't, a lot of leads can squeak by. And in this particular example that I'm going to play, you'll actually hear that, and you'll watch and actually, or should I say listen, to a conversation where a lead slips by. And this happens every day, and this is a real call. We put some horn honks in there to silence out the names of the innocent, but you get the idea. So let's go ahead and play this and just listen closely to how the lead slips out.
Hello, and thank you for calling StorePlace Self-Storage. This call may be recorded for quality assurance. Please hold, and someone will be right with you. Thank you for calling StorePlace at Cool Springs. This is Judy. How may I help you?
Hi, I was wondering how much a 10 by 10 is.
144.
144. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Keith. But as you can hear, as the person was thanking, as Melissa was thanking our storage operator, she actually got hung up on. So the point here is that we don't want to let those leads slip through the cracks. You get one chance to make that first impression with the right kinds of questions. And so in looking at scripts, we want to make sure that, are you asking or qualifying the call? Are you getting that information logged in? And in another question that we asked our industry, how confident are you that those questions are getting asked? Do you expect script usage? And 90% more or less feel like they're getting the scripts done. We're going to cover that reality in a second. First, just a couple of keys to a great script. It needs to be flexible. We don't mean make a word-for-word monologue of what to say. Checkboxes are just fine. And always ask an open-ended question. Can I expect to see you down here Saturday at 10 o'clock? Don't get ahead of yourself. In other words, give the customer, give the prospect a chance to talk to you. They'll feel understood and builds huge credibility. But then questions that really invite them to consider their choice is, have you thought about how you're going to be able to pack up that wedding dress? Have you considered about what temperature those wine bottles are going to be best kept at? Those are the sorts of things that make for a great script. And what we did was we wanted to hear about scripting compliance with 200 self-storage firms who recorded their calls so we could record theirs. And for a few months, we really took a look at what they were asking us in terms of the interaction. So by looking at this chart, what you'll see is we plotted out the amount of times it occurred. And you'll see that down here, 100% of the time, they said hello on the phone. But the ability to get that dialogue and qualify the call sort of tapered off so that the questions about maybe how they found us, when do you need storage, did you even verify our phone number, these are the types of things that really only happened about 1 in 4 times. And in fact, did you know that 12% of the people that call our stores are calling from work? If you don't verify the contact info, you can guarantee to lose 12% of your leads. So our point here is that a basic checklist of a script is a great start to get that dialogue going. And you need to document the fact that you're going to do it, that you're going to call these people back and do a follow-up. A relief manager is going to need to know some information because you're going to want to call them maybe 2 or 3 times. In fact, if you're not contacting people at least 3 times, our statistics and our close ratios go way down before that, but they stay strong at about 3 contact points. If you do it, maybe depending on the area, within the first, second, and third day of them calling, odds are that they're calling you for storage on a Saturday. So if you do your follow-ups, let's say on a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, you're most likely to be a fresh message in their ear. And always know when you've contacted them before. Hi, this is Ken from Next Door Storage. We sent you out that email the other day with the quote, and I wanted to see if you'd be willing to, why don't you come on in at Saturday at 10 o'clock and we can show you around. Okay, so the point here is that if it isn't written down, it didn't happen. And when we talk about systems, it can be as simple as an accordion file. Some people are going with ring binders or an Excel spreadsheet or even a piece of CRM software. This dialogue and all of that back and forth can keep that interaction of a very high quality no matter who you plug into the system. We asked about how confident people were that follow-up calls are being done, and it was a mix, but about 80% of you said that you were somewhat confident that follow-ups were being done. But if you have your script and an information sheet mixed together, somebody will be able to look at what was discussed. Like this particular thing has checks on what was discussed. So when I make the follow-up call to this person, I have some other details that really make me get an outstanding call. Hey, Bob, I noticed you were looking at the 2 units, one for your office. We can keep those computers in climate control. Are you available to come in and talk to me at 10 o'clock on Saturday? Come on in and I'll show you the unit that I was talking about. These are the types of conversations that lead open-ended questions into dialogue and give that sort of familiarity that we're all going for. It seems like in the expectation that a lot of folks are doing a follow-up call. A lot of folks said, yeah, we give them 1 to 2 contacts, 2 to 3 calls. So there's some people even down here that are more or less stalking their leads. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but the point is that don't make follow-up a repeated pestering. Build rapport. Have a good interaction that makes you stick out, and having those details noted in your system of capturing lead information is going to pay off big, big dividends. Hey, Tim, this is Ken from Next Door Storage. I know you were wanting to ship out in March, storing that dirt bike with us. It's all ready. We talked to you about that $45 unit, and we also told you that we've got an appointment set for you, so why don't you come on down? All right. Next I wanted to cover one question and that we asked folks, and that is, does your company require leads to be followed up on? And actually 85% of you said, yep, we require follow-ups. But the reality is that when we called these 200 operators, only 7% of them bothered to call us up about the 10 by 10 we were interested in. So our team of interns would ask them, how much is a 10 by 10? I'm interested. And we would tell them, well, we can't come in today because we're moving down to the area, but we're going to be ready Saturday. And so from there, only 7% of people called us back. And this isn't to be negative to our industry. We don't want to take this, with a bad aspersion. But what this means is that this area here is opportunity that hasn't been followed up on. And committing to these systems, this ought to show you that it's worth it. If the average rental, you figure, I think data from Sparefoot is saying like between 75 and 79 bucks a month, at about 10 or 11 months, it's $800 in our pocket. So there's definitely a reason to commit to follow-ups, and also to teaching and developing your team on how to do the best kind of follow-ups that they can. Just one comment: when we surveyed people on what kinds of calls you evaluate, I'm not quite sure that we need to evaluate existing customer calls. Some folks said that, and in fact, monitoring inbound calls is only so-so, in our opinion. If you really want to get a feel for how your selling skills are with your team, how their follow-up skills are, why don't you monitor the follow-up calls? And if you want to hear what they sound like, you can actually impart a really simple tool. A lot of people don't realize it, but if you go to Walmart and you get one of these prepaid phones, you can actually shop your own stores and ask questions and see how the script adherence is. And then it's also a tracking mechanism for your follow-ups. Now you can get an email or a text or a phone call, and now you really know how your team is doing, and it won't be you calling from an internal line or a number that they recognize. So right there is one way to start a system. Doesn't have to be that fancy. But the point that we made earlier is if you're going to monitor and coach people, your phone system might have the ability for you to monitor remotely. Again, focus on calls that matter. Take your sales skills to the next level with your team and start listening to their follow-up calls, because those are the ones that are going to tip those people that are undecided in your favor. So that was just another thing I wanted to bring up as well. When you catch somebody doing a great job, it's really important to make sure that you're sharing that with the group. You can make a competition with it. You can have a contest with it. Whoever plays the most off the pre-recorded phone or shows up the most on the pre-recorded phone, gets a prize. And it doesn't have to be money always. The incentive can be leaving early on a Friday. So it doesn't always have to be a monetary reward. Okay. I'd like to shift gears here and talk about what we said was the number 4 expense, in our business next to taxes or maybe payroll, and that is marketing expenses. With all of the ads out there, it's important to track, and we all know we need to track, but we can't emphasize this enough. If there's one takeaway from this discussion, it's to make sure that you use a unique individual tracking number for each unique ad that you run. People don't remember your phone number, and so don't think that there's that much branding at stake. go out and acquire some numbers. But a couple of things we want to advise you of is to make sure that you own it outright and it's portable, because if you get one through the Yellow Pages that's given, they're going to want to hang on to it when you decide to leave. Number two, just make sure that if you're moving numbers around, that whoever's giving you the tracking number isn't going to ding you $100 every time you want to put a handle on that number and move it somewhere else. So watch out for porting fees. If you go ahead and get the numbers yourself, you'll have a lot more control over it. You know, there's numbers out there that can be $2 a month. And lastly, if you're advertising in local publications, make sure you avoid using toll-free numbers. Clients and customers tend to want to stick with those people that they know, and that local area code does definitely give you a local feel. The point here is that tracking numbers, you know, to see if your $500 ad works, it's worth it to spend, you know, $15 on a unique phone number, because you can drop that ad and book out for shorter terms in case they don't pan out. Because if an ad doesn't pan out, you want to find out the cost per sale and ditch it like a bad habit. And what we mean by that is that you're going to have the ability to get how many calls or leads came through a particular tracking number, and then ultimately by putting together a system of monitoring and measuring all these leads, you're going to come up with a cost per sale. And this is how we measure. Okay, in God we trust, but measure everything else, right? And so, it's really important to understand that a high cost of sale ad is bleeding money, whereas lower cost of sale ads are much, much more profitable. So I wanted to emphasize the importance of tracking that and getting a system in place to do that. Just in kind of wrapping things up, there are ways to create automatic systems that can manage and improve your leads, and how you close on those. There's ways to manage your employees and your coaching and your grading of their performance levels, and certainly there's a way to gauge the marketing expenses and make sure that you really have an ROI and a cost of sale. Call Potential also provides a system that does this, but again, any system like this has been proven since the days of the Victor mousetrap. They can outsell your competition without having a better product, and we thought that some of these tips and ideas would be beneficial. Based on the industry data we took, if you would like to get some more of that data, we actually have it rolled out specifically in our special report. You can get a copy of it. Write this number, or write this URL down here. It's callpotential.com/special report. And if you wanted to book some time and have us ask some questions about if your operations might be a fit, you can reserve an appointment with us by visiting callpotential.com/schedule. So I think that's about it, but I did notice, though, that there were some things going on in the chat. I think there were at least a couple questions that I saw. Keith, could you open up that chat up and let's get reading through those?
Absolutely, Ken. First question that we have is, what management softwares are you integrated with?
What management softwares we integrated with? We are currently integrated with SiteLink. We're business partners of theirs. The folks at CenterShift also have seamless information flowing back and forth between our system and theirs. And we're working on a couple of others as well. eMove is one that we're integrated with, and we have a couple, actually 3 in our development track for August.
Okay. Next question is, do you do any management for the collections process?